Hi guys, and welcome back to the Early Bird Photo News. It's actually a little bit of a sad day today because I had to return all the awesome Sony gear that I've been using over the last few weeks. Now there is a little bit of relief though as well, because these reviews can always be full on and you have to use the gear day in, day out to get as much information as possible in a relatively short period of time. So over the last few weeks, I've basically been shooting every single day with the gear as much as I could to learn enough information that I can make some informed reviews for you guys. Last week in particular, I was quite busy because I've been filming a video that I posted a few days ago where I've been trying to get an awesome birds in flight and action shot in my own backyard with the A9 Mark III. Now this sounds kind of simple, make a 10-minute YouTube video, but if you look at this behind the scenes photo, you can see there's actually quite a bit involved in making just a short 10-minute YouTube video. I had one camera filming myself, then I had a field recorder on top of the camera to record the EVF, and then I had one camera film a wide angle of the scene and another camera to film a tight angle of the birds. So all in all, there was basically 4 record buttons and 1 shutter button to press to actually make this video. And then you also spent a day or two putting it all together in the editing process. You might wonder why I haven't been filming with the A1 and the 300mm lens in this example, for instance. And the main reason is that the A1, especially when it comes to video work and the way how I film, isn't very suitable because the wide area in video mode doesn't have any tracking associated with it. So you kind of have to move an autofocus field around or just focus on one point in particular. And if the bird's moving away, then you might not get the shot. This is where a lot of other cameras, including the A9 Mark III, are much more suited because you can just put it on a tripod, start filming, and it will kind of track the bird by itself. So hopefully this will be one feature that will be added to the A1 Mark II, but I'm sure it will be because we already see it in the A9 Mark III as well. So if you guys haven't watched my action-packed in the field video yet that also features the tame kookaburras in my backyard, make sure to check it out after watching this video. I will also do a full review of the A9 Mark III where I talk about all the great things that I loved about the camera in the field and also the things that I didn't like, alongside the video about the awesome 2.8 300mm lens as well. And one of the challenges I set myself there is trying to capture small, tiny little azure kingfishers in full flight. So if you want to see how the camera and lens go with that, make sure to subscribe to the channel because I'll be posting those videos very soon. So with the slightly noisier files of the A9 Mark III, editing is definitely important. So we need to get a good noise reduction software and then a good editing process, like the one that I teach you in my masterclass, where I show you step by step everything you need to know to transform your good looking RAW files into amazing looking final images. And what has helped me with these pictures as well is my process, because with just one click I could transform my RAW files into a great starting point for the editing process. So if you guys want to become more confident when it comes to editing and more proficient in your workflow, make sure to check out my ProSets, my masterclass and my brush pack down there in the description. At the moment it seems like it's a little bit the calm before the storm when it comes to camera news, with a few big announcements looming in May. First of all, we're expecting Nikon to announce a new camera body, but then Canon has also been registering 4 new camera bodies, 2 of which are very likely going to be the R1 and the R5 Mark II, but then there's also 2 other camera bodies we don't know yet what they're going to be. Either way, I think there's going to be some exciting announcement coming up very soon. There's also been a lot of chatter about the R5 Mark II this week when it comes to maybe price and sensor size, and to no surprise really, the most likely scenario for the R5 Mark II and the sensor will be a stacked BSI sensor with 45 megapixels. Some people were hoping it might have 50 or 60 or more megapixels, but I think 45 megapixels is probably the sweet spot for the camera for various reasons. First of all, it's the minimum we need for 8K, so it probably has to have at least 45 megapixels. But at the same time, I think it's important that it doesn't have a too high megapixel count, because then we're dealing with larger files, and kind of dealing with large volumes of data has been a little bit of trouble for Canon in the past, with most cameras having relatively small buffers. And for instance, when you hit the buffer, the camera stops shooting and it can take a couple seconds before the buffer clears. So dealing with large amounts of data doesn't seem to be the strong suit with Canon. So having a camera that doesn't have too high megapixels probably makes sense, because we can have it faster, hopefully 14-bit RAW files across the board, and overall fantastic image quality as well. Having been using the A9 Mark III, I also feel like the benchmark is kind of set in what is expected in a new camera going forward. And one of the main things is definitely a good working pre-capture implementation like we've seen with Olympus or the Sony camera. So hopefully this is something that the R5 Mark II will have as well. So I'm pretty confident that we will see a stacked sensor, because anything less than that would be a big disappointment, and 45 megapixels. All the other specs we have to wait a little bit longer for, but hopefully not too much longer. We will hear about the camera soon, and hopefully we'll also have one in our hands soon to try it out. When it comes to the price of the R5 Mark II, I think Nikon with the Z8 kind of set the benchmark with a fantastic price and great features in their Z8. But at the same time, I wouldn't be shocked if the R5 Mark II is at least a little bit, if not a lot more expensive than the Z8. Would you guys agree? Of course, I hope this is not the case, but I kind of have a feeling it will be at least a little bit more expensive than the initial R5 when that came out originally. One major piece of news was that Tamron and Sigma have announced that they're actively making lenses for the Canon RF mount with autofocus and everything else included. So everyone who has been hoping that Canon would open up the RF mount to some third-party manufacturers can now breathe a little sigh of relief, because it looks like we will be getting cheaper and nice third-party lenses from like Sigma and Tamron. At the moment though, all these lenses are APS-C crop factor lenses, so they're not made for full frame. Maybe this is something that Canon wants to reserve to themselves for now. And they're also all sort of wide angle lenses or a lot of wider prime lenses. Whether Tamron and Sigma will actually be making some more relevant nature lenses as well, we have to wait and see. So whether we're going to see 150 to 600 millimeter wildlife zoom lens, for instance, we don't know yet. But I know a lot of you guys would definitely want to see a lot more competition, especially from lower priced lenses in the RF lineup, am I right? In my birds in flight and action video I posted a few days, I was also trying a new in-the-field microphone from Sony, the ECM-W3. And I definitely had some struggles with it in the field, but this is something that I experience with all in-the-field microphones. Here in the studio I have quite an expensive Sennheiser microphone that costs thousands of dollars and gives me very nice and deep sounding good sound. But these field microphones are usually quite small and you have to kind of clip them somewhere to your body. And so they get a lot of interference and a lot of kind of noise coming in. And at the moment I move kind of my head in the field, the sound also goes quite quiet. And another problem is that oftentimes, for instance, when I'm photographing in the field and I'm still talking to you guys at the same time, I can't really talk as loud as I would talk in the studio because I don't want to scare the birds. And as soon as I talk quite quietly into these microphones, they also struggle to kind of record my voice good enough. And then if I lift the voice, for instance, the quality of the sound doesn't work as well anymore. So it's always a challenge with these microphones. But I thought today we can just test them again. The ones that I've been using in the field previously, the Wireless Go Mark II microphones, and also the Sony phone, and of course also this microphone. So here's a little test with the Sony microphone first. So now I'm directly recording into the Sony microphone, and you can let me know what you think of the sound. Do you prefer the sound up there, the expensive Sennheiser sound, or this little microphone? And now let's try out the Wireless Go. Now I'll put the Wireless Go 2 onto my neck and we're directly recording into that. This is a test. So which sound do you guys like the most? The expensive one or one of these little field mics? And I'm especially interested the most, which one of these two little field mics do you prefer? The Sony one or this one? Comparing them side by side, I must say I definitely prefer the size of the Sony one. It's a little bit lighter and a little bit easier to put onto your shirt, because I really don't like having the microphones on the collar where they just kind of look ugly. So this one fits really nicely into a small pocket. I think in this case the Sony may actually sound slightly better, but all in all I wish it was much easier to take these big microphones into the field with me to give you some good sound also when I'm photographing myself in the field. The other difference is that when I'm recording myself in the studio here, I have one of these Zoom F3 field recorders that also have 32-bit flow technology. So it's very hard to, or impossible to clip your sound. If I'm talking really loud, it's still going to stay within a correctable area. And if I talk really quiet, I can lift up the sound as well without having too much interference. Whereas in the field, I'm usually directly recording into the camera, which also makes it a little bit harder to find the perfect sound in the field. If you guys have any suggestions of other field microphones I should try out, please let me know in the comments, because I definitely like to find a good solution that also gives me some really nice sounding sound in the field. Last week Canon also released a firmware update for their big wide prime lenses, and while they fixed a couple things and added a couple things, I didn't really notice a big sort of difference in performance. The one thing I was hoping they would fix that they didn't address is that certain big wide prime lenses in the version 3 and the RF version have micro vibrations when you're trying to film from a tripod, but unfortunately that hasn't been fixed yet. We've also seen firmware updates for the Nikon Z8 where they fix a few problems with their previous firmware update, and Sigma has also updated their Sony version of the 60 to 600mm and 150 to 600mm lenses, so now they can work in conjunction with the A9 Mark III and have the 120 frames per second available. Unfortunately, this is still not available with continuous autofocusing, and you're then limited to 15 frames per second like all other third-party lenses on Sony bodies. And if you guys been waiting on your order for the 28 to 400mm Nikon lens, it seems like that's going to be shipping anytime between mid-May and the beginning of June. And on that note, I think it's a good time to wrap up this week's early bird photo news. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know all your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button, check out my channel membership, and I will see you guys in another video very soon. Bye!